We have a few points we want to get through. First of all, go back for a second, page 588. I forgot to mention yesterday. Vayomer al Aaron, kach lecha egel ben boker lechatas. Take the calf as a sin offering on page 588, second line. So we talked yesterday about Aaron bringing this calf and the atonement for the golden calf and so on and so forth. The commentaries say, do me a favor, Chaim, open the door so he keeps him crossed. So the Meforshim say over here, there's a concept in the Gemara. There's a concept called kshot atzmecha. Do you ever hear that concept? Kshot atzmecha ve'achar kach kshot acherim. That means before you fix somebody else up, fix yourself up. And when you're going to give somebody any sort of, people are not receptive to criticism from somebody who they feel themselves, especially if somebody is guilty of the same thing that they're criticizing somebody for. So if a guy in the yeshiva comes over and says, that's lashon hara, you also speak lashon hara. So if the Chavetz Chaim came over to me and the Chavetz Chaim was alive and he would say, that's lashon hara, I'd accept it from the Chavetz Chaim. Why? Because he doesn't speak lashon hara. If somebody else says to me, by the way, that's lashon hara, so I'd be resistant. Now, the truth is, why should I be resistant? If I'm speaking lashon hara, what's the difference who says it to me? If I'm saying something and it's really lashon hara and somebody tells me it's lashon hara, why should I be resistant regardless of what he does? If I'm doing it, I really shouldn't do it. The answer is, I think, that I suspect your motivation. If you really were concerned about lashon hara, you wouldn't speak lashon hara. So why are you picking on me? It's because you want to pick on me, not because you're concerned about my soul. It's not because you're worried about my lashon hara. It's because you're looking for an excuse to pick. That's why you're picking. That's why people are resistant. The Chavetz Chaim isn't looking to pick on me. The Chavetz Chaim is obviously concerned about the actual lashon hara. Therefore, so the only way you'll ever be able to fix somebody else up. By the way, this is a problem for parents when you're trying to fix up kids. If a father tells a kid don't talk during davening, and then the father turns to the guy next to him and they're chatting away over there. So, the kid is like, what kind of, what do you want from me? So before, you have to make sure as much as possible. None of us are perfect. None of us are, otherwise nobody can ever tell. Parents can never fix their kids up because parents are also guilty of certain flaws. But there's an understanding. And by the way, as a parent, you should admit to your kid if you've done something wrong. If kid catches you out, parents get upset. Parents say, well, don't be a chutzpah, don't be chutzpah. If a kid, maybe the kid could say it differently, but if a kid points out something and he's right, so as a parent, you should say, you're absolutely right, I got to work on that. You really shouldn't speak to me that way. That's a different issue. We'll deal with that. But the fact is that what you're saying to me is correct. So if two kids are bickering with each other, and if I say, stop fighting, and the kid says, well, you and mom fight. Parents don't like that. An honest parent say, you're right, and to say, well, that's different, that doesn't work. That's different doesn't work. What you should say is, you're right. You have to be careful how you speak to me because I am your father. And you're right, I shouldn't be doing that, but you shouldn't be doing it either. Okay, so now we agree, neither of us should do it. I'll work on it, now you have to work on it too. So what I used to do with my kids, by the way, when one kid would pick on another kid, you got an older sibling beating up a younger sibling. So I had this with one of my kids who was constantly hitting the other one. And at a certain point, everybody says, stop, don't, that sort of thing. Try punish it, this, that. One of the things I stopped, this was genius, by the way. I'm not bragging, but I'm just saying, I'm going to take a bow anyway. But what I did, one of my sons would beat up on his sister. She had a mouth. She had a mouth. She had a mouth, and he didn't like it. And I even said to her, I would say to her, your words are just as painful as his punch. But you can't let him beat her up. So eventually what I did was he would hit her, and I said to her in front of him, I said, listen, I'm responsible for him because I'm his father. I have no way of stopping him. So what I do is I have to pay you for damages. And I'd give her 5 shekels. He didn't like that. And she's going to walk off with the money. Now, if they were smart, it would have been my older son, who's a sneak and a conniver, right? He would have made a plan with her in advance, so they could split it. But they, at a certain point, and that stopped him because he knew that if he hits, she's going to gain the last thing he wants. So that worked. That was good. My son, the conniver, what I told them was on Erev Pesach after we cleaned the house out. So I would tell them, I would tell the kids, okay, I did the search for the chametz. and I would tell the kids, okay, I want you to split up. If any piece of chametz you find in the house the size of one of those yellow osem soup nuts, those little soup croutons, I say any piece of chametz you find the size of an osem soup nut, I'll give you a shekel. So the kids would split around. Then the house, once that happened, so my son, the conniver, he would come back and he somehow always found two pieces, which mysteriously looked like they fit like a puzzle. Right? That's it. Oh, you found two pieces right next to each other. Isn't that interesting? Right? But it worked. It worked because the house, after they'd come over to me, Daddy, is this chametz? They had microscopic particles that you couldn't pick up with the latest scientific instruments. That's what they would find. That house was clean from chametz. So here, Aaron has to bring the korban because he's the one who is going to be the spiritual leader. And he's going to be telling the Jewish people, you also did wrong. First fix yourself up. Bring an atonement for yourself. That's kshodat tzmecha. Okay, now skip to Pasuk Tesvav. Vayakrev es korban ha'am. It's on 590, 7th line. Vayakrev es korban ha'am. Aaron brings the korban of the people. Vayikach es seir hachatos. He takes the goat. He takes the goat of Asher la'am. Vayishchateu vayachateu karishon. And he said, how does the article translate it? By the way, he and performed the sin service as for the first one. Now, what does it mean for the first one? The first karishon ke'egel shelo. Rashi says, like when he performed this service. The same way that he performed the service of the calf that he brought as an atonement for himself. This is an atonement for the people, and he brought the same way they brought an atonement for himself. So I saw one of the Farshim points out, very interesting. What do you think Aaron's mood was when he's told by Moshe Rabbeinu, picture yourself in the place of Aaron. And I'm telling you, I want you to bring a calf, I want you to bring an offering. You're going to bring a calf, and this is going to be an atonement for you. It wipes out any sort of connection that you had to the golden calf. How do you think his attitude would be?
Pretty eager.
Yeah, of course. He'd be very eager. Right? No kidding. This is it. That's I got to do. Then we're done. The game, we're finished. So there must have been some sort of level of enthusiasm, high enthusiasm, when he did it. What about when you start bringing a subsequent korban? The normal human nature is, and your enthusiasm level drops. But look what the Torah says over here. Vayichateu karishon, he does it like the first one. Aaron brings this one no different than the first. Vayichateu karishon. The Torah is teaching us over here that it's very easy for a person we're excited in the beginning. And after a while, that excitement wears off. The novelty of it wears off. Don't let it wear off. Don't let it wear off. Do it the way you're doing it with the same enthusiasm and the same excitement. This is very, very applicable. A lot of you guys are going home. You're going to be family with parents. In the beginning, it's like, parents, and then you're going to help them out and everything. And after a few minutes, your mother's voice starts to sound like that broken record, like fingernails on a chalkboard. And then they start with the rolling of the eyes, that also, no. The same enthusiasm all the way through. Whatever my parents are asking you to do something. By the way, that is your mitzvah when you go home. When people say, what should I do when I'm at home? Your mitzvah is to honor your parents. Your mitzvah is to do what your parents, that is your mitzvah now. And it's halachically, it's a mitzvah she'i efshar al yidei acherim. The halacha is, the Rambam says, should I stop learning to go do another mitzvah? Somebody asked me to do a mitzvah. Do I close my Gemara or my Chumash to go do that mitzvah? We have a halachic guideline for that. What's the halacha? If it's a mitzvah she'i efshar al yidei acherim, a mitzvah that it cannot be done by somebody else, you stop your learning and you have to do the mitzvah. That's what we're learning for. We're learning in order to do mitzvahs. So if you're supposed to learn Torah, and if it's a mitzvah that could be done by somebody else, so then you don't stop learning. But if your mother asks you to do something, and you're the only one available, then you smile ear to ear, and you say, Mom, there is nothing that I would like to do more, Shia, than go and scrub the walls in the back room for Pesach. That is what my entire existence is for, with a big smile, right? And then you do it the next thing she asks you to also. By the way, it's easy what's they say, expression, the best defense is a good offense. Right? That's why I'm taking offense over here. I do nothing around the house. And as a kid, Erev Pesach was not a good thing. I didn't do well Erev Pesach at all. I was the kid who was always fetching when I was asked to do something, and I was always looking around for something to eat, because the house there's it becomes kind of sparse. You're living on the Mishloach Monos from Purim till Pesach. That's what's for supper. A few more of those wafers. And some bisli if you're really hungry. I didn't do well with that. I didn't do well with that at all. I had a job. I had a job when I was growing up. My job was to clean out that we had a shower room with beautiful, just the shower room. In my job, my mother was always say, okay, Dovid, take the spray, take the thing, and go wash down the tiles in the shower room. So I'd be in this shower room washing down tiles, and eventually I'd say, Mom, nobody eats while they're taking a shower. There's no chametz in here. And my father was there, don't get smart, do what your mother tells you to do. My father wasn't in a good mood because he was washing the tiles in the other shower room. So he wasn't any happier than me. We were both, neither of us was happy about it. So I made it clear to my wife, by the way, this you should know, that when you're married, women, when they go, first of all, just for the sake of shalom bayis, men have to remember Pesach is not their idea. It's not your mother's idea, honey. She didn't make up the halacha over here, Shaya. Yeah, chametz is a Torah. You're forbidden. It's not your mother's idea. It's just that your mother knows that if not for her, you'd eat bread on Pesach, so she's got to supervise it. But it's not her idea. Husbands have to make sure, clarify with your wives right off the bat. I told my wife, listen, just tell me what you want to do. And I'll tell you what really, I'm bearing my soul, right? Because I'm obviously been traumatized by this over the years. I have no problem cleaning for Pesach or doing what the halacha says. But if you think that shower room needs to be cleaned for Pesach, that's not a halacha. Now, that I'm not doing. You want me to clean the shower room because we're cleaning the house, I want to clean everything. Okay, I'll do that for you like I do anything else. But if you think that we have to do it, forget about it. Then I'm out. So that's just get it clear what her plans are. If your mother asks you to do something, why do you want me to do this, Mom? Because we can't have chametz in case somebody takes a shower on Pesach. They might eat the walls. No, that's not going to happen. I'm not too worried about that. You want to clean it because we're cleaning the house. And by the way, you see, remember we always spoke about how every mitzvah in the Torah, there's a side benefit. Look at the side benefits that Jews have. What a coincidence. What another coincidence. Even by non-Jews, don't they have something called spring cleaning? What's spring cleaning from? Where's spring cleaning from? Everything's been closed up and locked up for an entire winter. In spring cleaning, you start cleaning things out. Look what happens at a Jewish home, every from Jewish home. The walls are washed down with a soap. The bacteria is being killed. All the house is being aired out. It's all being cleaned. All that stuff. It has side benefits, health benefits. All the dust is getting out and all the mold and mildew and everything else. And the walls are painted. Many homes, the walls are painted and you certainly spray them down. That's the job I like Erev Pesach, by the way, to go around with the spray bottle. Because then you could pretend, just I'm James Bond, right? And you spray. That's a job I like. I like the spray bottle thing. And it's up to me. That's all I would do is just walk around spraying things, And by the way, that works according to halacha. I know what you're laughing. That works according to halacha. That's valid. All you got to do is spray to be mevatel the chametz. Problem is that the other person in my life insists on cleaning it out properly. But it's up to me, get go one of those big kids with you, but fill it up with soap. Right? I'm good with that. I can do that cleaning all day. That's already a contest. But no. Got to take the rag, smear it, wash it off. So all I tell you is that clarify with your mother, that's your mitzvah. That's your mitzvah. When you go home, your mitzvah is kibbud av v'em. And when you first get there, you're going to be very enthusiastic about it. And sometimes guys, you go off to minyan. If your mother needs you at home, don't make this minyan one of those, 6-hour jobs. Get back home if she really needs you. But it should be done with the same enthusiasm. Okay, now get to the main point that I want to get to today. Perek Yud, top of 592. And this is really the central theme of the Parsha here. And we're going to take this for a ride, Shaya. Vayikchu b'nei Aaron 592. Vayikchu shnei b'nei Aaron Nadab and Abihu ish machtaso. Nadab and Abihu each take their fire pan. Vayitu bahen esh. They put fire coals in it. Vayasimu aleh ketores. They brought in a ketores, the incense. Vayakrivu lifnei Hashem esh zora asher lo tziva osam. They bring a fire, an offering, which they weren't commanded to bring. And here you have a situation where the Jewish people are celebrating the inauguration of the Mishkan. There's a joy, there's a celebration, there's unmitigated happiness. And what happens? These two sons of Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, who Chazal tell us they're on even a higher level. Moshe says to Aaron, they're on a higher level than either me or you. Talk about major tzaddikim. Vateitze esh milifnei Hashem, a fire comes out from God. Vatochal osam, it consumes them. Vayamusu lifnei Hashem, they die before Hashem. Nadab and Abihu died. And the Medrash says that the fire, Rashi brings down, the fire entered their nostrils and it burnt their neshama. The body was left whole. Now that right there, what does that tell you? Yeah, it's bad when that happens, Shai. Yeah, that's bad. That's nasty. The two streams of fire entered the nostrils, and then they died. What does that tell you? That form of death. What does that tell you?
Don't play with the Shem.
Yeah, that's certainly true. Don't mess. Yeah. Don't mess. Yeah, don't bring. But what does that tell you? I mean, they didn't get zapped by their bodies stayed whole, and only the insides of the neshama was burnt. What does that tell you? So, one of the approaches here is that to the degree of the, what's the word in English? The obviousness. Is there a word like that? The obviousness or obviosity. The more obvious it is, the more obvious the death would be. Over here, the death is internal. The external wasn't affected. That means that what they did wrong at their level was it was very subtle, what they did wrong. It wasn't what as blatantly sinful as they're bringing an offering. They felt that an offering needs to be brought. That means that at some very subtle level, they stepped out of line. Had it been more obvious, they would have been turned into toast. But it was very, very subtle. Now, listen carefully and hold all the questions for a second. The Gemara says, the Medrash says, what did they do wrong? What was wrong? There are different approaches to what they did wrong here. I want to show you something. This is unbelievable. We're going to go for a ride now. This is unbelievable. So there are several things mentioned. I'm going to read them off. One of them is that they were following Moshe and Aaron, and they said, when are these two old men going to die, and we'll take over the leadership of the people? That's one opinion. There's another opinion that they didn't consult with each other. None of you didn't consult with each other. Each one acted independently. There's even an opinion that they did this independently and would not have died. You know what the problem is? Because only one person is allowed into the holies at a time. They didn't consult, and they both had the same idea, and all of a sudden ended up in the Kodesh HaKodashim, and one of them looks like, yo, bro, what are you doing here? And that was the flaw. The flaw was like, whoa, surprise. I thought it was, and according to that opinion, they wouldn't have died had each one only gone by himself. But they didn't consult with each other. There's another opinion that they went in shesuye yayin. They drank wine. And you're not allowed to drink wine when you serve in the Beis Hamikdash. There's another opinion that they didn't get married and have children. They felt that there's no girl who is worthy of marrying us at our level. And remember, we're talking about people at the height that Moshe says to Aaron, that Moshe Rabbeinu says to Aaron, I knew that something like this was going to happen at the time of the inauguration, because Hashem said, Bikrovai akadesh, I will be sanctified through my close ones. I thought it was going to be me or you, Moshe Rabbeinu said to Aaron, and I see that they're on a higher level than us. These are Aaron's sons. And the last one is, they were Moreh halacha bifnei Rabban. Moreh halacha bifnei Rabban means that they paskin the halacha in front of the Rebbe. And the Gemara says that if you ever paskin in the presence of your Rebbe, you're chayiv misa. Person's liable for the death penalty. Why? You've broken the most basic form of Torah protocol. Torah protocol is there's a Rebbe, and you're a Talmud, know your place. You should know your place. By the way, I was once, when I was in Kollel, so I had a friend, And I think it was Chol Hamoed, Pesach or Sukkot. It was one of the Chol Hamoeds. So I don't remember, somehow I messed up in davening. I forgot Yalav V'Yov. I said 2 Yalav V'Yov. I don't know what I did. Something I messed up. My friend was talking to a big Rav. And I didn't know what to do. I finished my Shemini Esrei. I didn't know, did I repeat Shemini Esrei? Don't repeat Shemini Esrei. I don't remember what the situation was exactly. So I walked over. My friend was talking to him. And I said to this Rav, I messed up. Do I repeat the Shemini Esrei? So before the Rav could say anything, my friend interjected. He goes, yeah. So I looked at the Rav, and the Rav goes, like that. So I walked away, and I davened, or whatever it was. Then my friend comes over to me a few minutes later and says, by the way, after you walked away, he turned to me and he said, you realize you're Chayav Misa now, don't you? Don't do it again. He was good. See what a Rav was? He didn't say it in front of me, so not to embarrass the guy. But then he told the guy the facts of life, or the facts of death, as the case may be. He said, you realize you're Chayav Misa now. Don't do it again. So that's breaking Torah protocol. Now, so there are 5 or 6 different reasons which are offered. Now, stay with this. This is unbelievable. The Nesiva Shalom says they're all coming. Well, which one was it? Make up your. How could there be 5 or 6 reasons? The Nesiva said they're all coming from the same place. They're all coming from the same place, which is what? A person has to know his place in life. What's my role right now? Are you the coach or are you the player? Are you the one giving instruction or are you the one taking instruction? Or, as we've put it many times, are you the mashpia, the one who conveys the energy, or are you the one who receives the energy? Which one are you? Nadab and Abihu, they were great, but where was their role right now? Were they givers or receivers at this point? They were receivers. What happens when you're a receiver? Who were the givers at this point? Moshe and Aaron. Moshe and Aaron, they're the mashpiyim. They're the energy. You're a receptacle right now. One day you'll become the energy, but right now you're a receptacle. Where do we find that, by the way? Which is the relationship where we always talk about that? Male, female. The man is the active energy. The wife is a receptacle. In all areas, the physical relationship, the ruchnius relationship, that's the relationship male-female. They were, now let's watch this. What did they do wrong? First of all, they said, when are these two going to die so we could take over? That means you want to jump the gun. You want to be the energy as opposed to the receiver. Number 2, they said, did not consult with each other. That means I'm not only willing to not receive from them, I'm not receive from my own brother over here. That's the same symptom. What else? They were drunk. They drank wine. How does that fit in? We'll see. Number 4, they didn't get married. Why? Because they felt nobody. What happens is, when you should be giving, you understand what happens? Right now, you're not supposed to be the energy. You're supposed to be the receiver. So you distorted it. I want to be the energy. So where you should be the energy, then you don't. You understand? You take it off somewhere else. Now you're supposed to be getting married, and you're supposed to be the energy and the one who gives over, and that you're not willing to do. Why? Because you got it all twisted and all messed up. And the last one was that they paskined in front of their Rebbe. Why didn't you go and ask Moshe Rabbeinu if this was a good idea? Why did you paskin we should bring this fire? Again, you jumped the gun to be the mashpia as opposed to the ishpa. So we have a problem. What about drinking? What about the drink? How does that fit in with this pattern? Listen to this. It's going to blow you away. Blow you away. What is the numerical value of zachar? What's the numerical value of zachar? Male. Zachar zayin is 7. Chaf is 20. Resh is 200. A zachar is 227. What is the numerical value of nekeva? No, man. If zachar is 227, she's not going to be the same. What's nekeva? Is a nun is 50. Kuf is 100. Beis is 2, and Hay is 5. 157. Do you know that the Gemara says, it's a statement in the Gemara, a woman who drinks wine, she behaves like a man. Go to any college campus. Don't. But just think of what happens. A woman is supposed to be much more passive, a little discreet. What happens when she hits the punch bowl? And a woman who drinks, she becomes aggressive, right? She becomes very, very indiscreet. The Gemara says a woman who gets drunk, she behaves like a man. She'll become the aggressor. Oh, a male, Zohar is 227. Nekeva is 157. What's the numerical value? What's 227 minus 157, gentlemen? 70. What's the numerical value of wine? 70. Oh, what did they do? They drank wine. In other words, they should have been in female mode of receiving. They drank wine. They added 70 to 157. They become a 227, if it's the pattern perfectly. So they went into male mode, meaning they wanted to be a mashpia. That's the flaw of Nadab and Abihu. The flaw of Nadab and Abihu in the lesson for us is a person has to know his place. A person in life has to know his place. And sometimes a person is a little bit overeager. And sometimes the person wants to give over, and it's natural. The person has to know, where do I fit into the picture over here? Am I a receiver or am I a giver? That's one of the approaches over here. I'm pretty interesting. And that's what the Ben Ish Chai says. Ben Ish Chai says that the difference between male and female is 70. Between a Zohar and a Nekeva is 70. And a woman who drinks wine becomes like a male. That's exactly what Chazal are telling us about Nadab and Abihu. That Nadab and Abihu, at their level, they didn't recognize where they're supposed to be. They didn't recognize their place. They did not know their place. And you jumped the gun, and therefore they were chayiv misa. Okay, number one. Number two, Aaron is silent over here. Aaron is silent. And Aaron is going to be rewarded for his silence. Like, can you imagine the silence over here? Can you imagine Aaron is silent, his two sons die, and Aaron doesn't say, Vayidom Aaron. Look at the next pasuk. We're going to come back to this. Vayomer Moshe el Aaron. Moshe says to Aaron, Hu asher diber Hashem, fifth line, Lamor bikrovay kadesh. This is what Hashem meant when he said, I will be sanctified through those who are close to me. V'alpnei kol ha'omek kaved. I'll be honored in front of the people. Vayidom Aaron. Aaron maintains his silence. And Rashi says that what does it mean that Hashem is sanctified? When Hashem carries out judgment against even tzaddikim, that sobers up everybody. Like, whoa, if they're going to get it, if even they get it, so what happens to the rest of us? So that's and what is Aaron's response? What do most people say if the chas v'shalom person would go through something like that? What would people say? What would people say if that's just such a thing happened? Like, why me? Why? What the hell? Where's God? What kind of God would do something like that? Aaron doesn't say anything. Aaron doesn't say anything. So one of the ideas over here is, what would he have said if he would have said something? There are different approaches to what he would have said. So there's a medrash that says, remember Rabbi Meir? Spoke about Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir had a wife. Anybody remember Rabbi Meir's wife's name? Mm-hmm. What was her name? Bruria. Bruria, very good. Rabbi Meir had a wife, Bruria, who was very brilliant. And they had two sons who died on Shabbos. And when they died, Bruria covered them over. She covered them with a blanket, and she didn't tell Rabbi Meir when he came home. When Rabbi Meir came home, Bruria said to him, if somebody would entrust us with something to a pikadon, something to watch, would we be obligated to give it back? So Rabbi Meir said, yeah, obviously. If somebody entrusted you when they want it back, you got to go. He said, look, Hashem gave us 2 pikadons and we have to give them back. And she told him and broke the news to it. Why did she do it that way? I think the pshat in the medrash is that if she would just tell him, by the way, your son's died, so Rabbi Meir, it could fall apart. But he wants to emphasize to him, to put it all in the proper, let's get it in a perspective over here. He gave us a pikadon, and now we have to give the pikadon back. We have to give what he entrusts, so we have to give it back. There's one problem with that. When a person tries to do that, the person says, well, Hashem gave a gift. And they decided to take the gift back. If you even talk about it that way, it could have a boomerang effect. That a person feels, yeah, Hashem took the gift. And why did Hashem take the gift back? And a person gets it. Aaron understands the best thing here is silence. Don't even talk about it being a gift. Because if you don't talk about being a gift, you're also not going to talk about it being something that's unfair that's taken away. And Aaron maintains his silence under what's he rewarded with? He's going to get a prophetic communication directly to him. Aaron's going to get a prophetic communication. That's his reward for remaining silent. Why? Why is that the reward? How does that reward him? Because imagine the intensity of the grief. The intensity of the grief. There's only one thing that could counteract that intensity. You know what that is? Prophecy. You know how intense prophecy was? You know how intense prophecy was? One of the descriptions of prophecy the only thing I could think of, really think of to compare it to prophecy, not that it is comparable. Let's compare it to heroin. I knew a guy once, no, I didn't get involved that way. I mean, I knew the guy. It wasn't like, he was my dealer. No, I didn't mean that. I knew a guy who had been a heroin addict, and he became a Baal Tshuva. And he said, in spite of becoming a Baal Tshuva and knowing that this is what he should do, and this is the way he should live life, he never found something that could fill that vacuum that he was missing from the heroin experience. People say, oh, what's heroin like? And people say, oh, what's heroin like? I wonder what, it was like a marshmallow fluff, but just a little different. No. How can you possibly explain what it's like? He said he never found something to fill that gap. It's unfortunate. A prophet who experienced the experience of prophecy, the ecstasy of prophecy was so intense that once a person experienced prophecy, nothing in life, his whole life was spent trying to get to a point where he could re-experience that prophetic experience, where he could replace that prophetic. That's the intensity. So Aaron gets the prophecy as a midah kedei. What could be more? There's no grief that's as intense as what Aaron went through. In midah kedei, you didn't say anything, you didn't complain against God. Midah kedei get midah. What's he going to get? He's going to have his own prophetic experience. Because that prophetic experience is something that is so intense, that's the only thing that could counteract that. Number one. Number two, I'll get to you 1 second, Miguel. Number two, let's go back to the wine. According to the opinion that they drank wine, what's wrong with that? So what did they do? So they drank some wine away. What's wrong with that? So they drank some wine. So what's the problem? So you had some extra, a little bit too much wine before you went into the Kodesh, into the Holy. Oh, why for that? A person deserves to die. Why? Why should they die for having wine? You know what the answer is? Imagine you're getting married to the single daughter of a 91-year-old billionaire who's on a respirator. And she's gorgeous on top of it all. What kind of mood do you think you'd be in? Nice. I'd probably get used to that pretty quick, right? You'd be pretty happy? You'd be pretty happy? The truth, Chaim, come on.
Very happy.
Yeah, very happy. There we go. Now the truth finally comes out. Ecstasy is probably more an accurate description. She's what do you call it? She's the gorgeous daughter of a 91-year-old billionaire who's the only daughter, and he's on a respirator with 2 weeks left to live. You could be in a pretty good mood. So you're going to say, hey guys, I got to pick myself up. Let's have some wine. Let's have a couple of shots of Glenlivet. You need something to pick you up at that point? You're going to the last game. It's the last inning of the seventh game of the World Series. The last inning of the seventh game, and the Cubs are up 16-1 in the ninth inning, and you need something to pick you up while you're watching that? I mean, what greater joy could there be in life? And the other team is the White Sox. What greater joy could there be? I need a drink to access some extra happiness. There is no extra happiness. You've hit the pinnacle of happiness. You're going into the Beis Medrash to serve. You're serving God in the Beis Medrash, and you need wine to serve b'simcha? What are you drinking wine for? I want to get into a state of simcha to serve God. Even do es Hashem b'simcha. You need wine to get into simcha. You're serving in the Beis Hamikdash. You shouldn't need any wine in the Beis Hamikdash. You've got the privilege to go and serve God in the Beis. A Kohen's not allowed to drink before he serves in the Beis Hamikdash. You know that? Kohen can't drink. Kohen is not allowed to drink before he's serving in the Beis Hamikdash. You're in the Beis Hamikdash. You got a privilege that no one. Yeah. I mean, imagine. I gotta tell you what. There's only one other Kohen in the room here. The rest of you are losers. Right? Are you a Kohen, by the way? No, you didn't make it either. Right? So, your first name is? Avram. Me and Avram are Kohanim. The rest of you, and we get to go to the Beis Hamikdash. Avram, you need a shot before you go into the Beis Hamikdash. The very thought that you can't go in is enough to make me happy. How do you like that? I need a shot. And then there's the mitzvah in the Beis Hamikdash. I need a shot to go into the Beis Hamikdash. Whoa, you drank wine, you deserve to. The chayv bisa. That's what you need to pick you up at that point. That means you don't appreciate what you're doing in the Beis Hamikdash. You don't appreciate what you're doing in the Beis Hamikdash. What were we going to ask, Miguel? Shai, don't go too far.
state that they don't need it anymore. But people like that, they were using that as a tool. Like,
Right, that's exactly.
As an opportunity to elevate their service even.
100% correct. And that's exactly the point. We know they weren't drinking like two guys in a tavern. Hey, let's have our shot before we go. No, that wasn't. It was with 100% motivation to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu to get the simcha, and that's where they're taken to task. It's so subtle. That's exactly what the Forshim say. That's exactly what the flaw is. You could be. There's a rule. You could be right. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. But you're wrong. If you don't believe me, get married. You're right. You're right. You're right. But you're wrong. Avram, you're married? You're right, you're right, you're right, but you're wrong. I told you yesterday, somebody said, the fastest way to get a woman to change her mind is to agree with her. Is that profound? It works. It works. If arguing with her, it ain't going to work. You're right, you're right, you're right, but you're wrong. And they had you could be motivated. Adam Harishon, Adam, the original sin, he had perfect motivation. He wasn't stopped running around eating figs. He had motivation. He would have convinced us, if we would have been there, he would have convinced us it's the right thing to do. You know what happened? There's only one problem. It wasn't. Hashem said don't. That's why it's such a subtle flaw. So one last point is that even a Rav is not allowed. A Rav, a posek, who drinks a revius of wine. How much is a revius of wine? 3.3 fluid ounces of wine. He's not allowed to paskin. Shasa revius al yora. If he drinks a revius of wine, he can't paskin until the wine wears off. I mean, honestly, how much does a revius of wine do to you? Not nothing. Almost nothing. What does that mean? What does that mean? And he can't paskin. You know what that indicates to us? That tells you how subtle Torah is. That he's even that slight, don't say it does nothing, because it does 3.3 fluid ounces of something, or 4.42 fluid ounces, according to Rabbi Moshe, or 5.07 fluid, according to Chazon Ish. But you could be a regular wine drinker, but it did something. How much did it do? Very little, not as much as a half a bottle of wine, but it did something. That something is enough to disqualify a posek from paskening and a halacha in Torah, because that's how subtle Torah is. Torah requires a perfect mind to pasken because of the subtleties of Torah. I just saw, by the way, the Rav Tzadok HaKohen from Lublin. Rav Tzadok was one of the great thinkers. He said, this is unbelievable. You know, when we learn Torah, one of the things we do is we innovate. We're mechadesh. There's chiddush in Torah. You come up with a chiddush. You come up with a new insight, a new way of understanding, a deeper level of understanding. Every time we're mechadesh in a beis medrash, he says that unleashes an energy of wisdom into the world, which is what allows the other nations to innovate in the material realm. How do you like that? That's what Tzadok says. That means if Pfizer comes up with a new medication, there's a new medication that could cure a French accent, and they come up with it. If Pfizer comes up with a new medication, you know where they got that wisdom from? They got that wisdom because somebody in a beis medrash understood it tosos. And that released the energy for them. If the guy with the, ironically, if you see a guy in a beis medrash with a computer, he's got a computer and he's typing up his chidushim on the computer. The computer didn't come into the beis medrash. The computer came out of that beis medrash. That's where the ability to make computers come from. What's his name? Steve Jobs, whatever his name was, whatever he came up with. That ability came out of a beis medrash. He wasn't in a beis medrash, but there was chokhmah unleashed in a beis medrash. That chokhmah carries over. That's what gives them the energy. Whatever they innovate, whatever they come up with, computer chips and whatever it is, potato chips and computer chips, whatever it is, that came out of a beis medrash. Frankly, I think that the potato chips are more significant. I've had a lot more to do with potato chips than computer chips. You know, if they come up with a computer chip that's barbecue flavored computer chip, you know, then we could talk. But so far they haven't. So I'll stick with the Doritos, right? You know, but at the end of the day, that's a chokhmah. So he tells it, a guy drinks, a posek drinks a revius of wine. Has his mind not been affected at all? False. That much effect, Torah has to be perfect, not that much. Unbelievable thought, isn't it? It's an unbelievable thought. All right, see you tomorrow.